we're actually starting our second series of events under the Bulgarian-UK strategic program, which is fostering partnerships in relation to transnational education opportunities within the higher education sector. We already had one hybrid event last year with interested institutions, higher education institutions, as well as other institutions from the UK and Bulgaria, associations of universities. We are very glad from the side of the team of the British Council and the British Embassy in Sofia, who are running the program. We are very happy and glad we have the opportunity to continue our efforts together with you. And this time we have been inviting also the British Bulgarian Business Association and the private sector, as well as private public partnership agencies to join our efforts, minding that during this second series of subject-specific webinars, we would like to explore the economic sectors that intersect in relation to the interests from both the economic side of things, from the side of the business, as well as from the side and interests of universities. Of course, we're basing our ideas on previously done research, which was presented during our first webinar and which you might find interesting to go through on our website, the landing page of the project, which I believe most of you already have. We've sent you the landing page where we'll be uploading all the different presentations and materials from the webinars. Happy spring, welcome officially. Now we have approximately 25 participants, as I can see from the list, and we're expecting some more 30 people to be joining in the different sessions, of course, based on their specific subject interests. And I would just like to say that we'll be recording the webinar sessions because, as most of you already asked, as well as other colleagues from universities that would be currently busy, they would like to have the opportunity to see the recordings, and we'll upload the different sessions recordings on the project's website and landing page, which will be shared with you once again throughout the webinar. Now I would like to give the floor to my colleagues from the British Embassy, with whom, as already mentioned and as seen in the invitations and the landing page, we're joining efforts to do this program together. So whoever from the embassy would like to firstly join, probably Miss Emilia Pecheva from the Science and Innovation Network. As I understood, my other colleague, Ekaterina, is still having some problems with the sound, but she'll surely join soon. So Amy, please, if you would like to also welcome the participants.
Yes, good morning, everyone in Bulgaria and in the UK. I am Emilia. My name is Emilia Pecheva, and I am the science officer at the British Embassy in Sofia. I'll be short. Just wanted to say that I hope today we'll have some interesting presentations and discussions, and we'll find the matches to be used as a ground for the development of strong TNE collaboration between our two countries. I wish good luck to the organizers and my colleagues from the British Council and British Embassy, and also to the speakers. Have a good day and enjoy the discussions.
Thank you, Emmy. And yeah, actually, I would also like to thank all the participants joining and partnering with us from institutions. And actually, these are our colleagues from the Ministry of Education and Science and the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy in Bulgaria. And related to this, it's really a pleasure and honor to have the Deputy Minister, Ms. Natalia Efremova, joining us today. She's the Deputy Minister from covering the whole sector of international relations. So it's really a pleasure to have you, Ms. Efremova, here with us. And actually, just to say that we were speaking with you much before this event, during our first event we had back last year. And thank you so much for the support from the side of the ministry and finding it relevant to discuss what are the needs from one side, from the side of institutions, higher education institutions, but also what are the economic gaps and employment gaps, and what is the really wanted talent that we would like to foster and somehow support developing here in the country. Please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thanks to the organizers from the British Council and the British Embassy in Sofia for this webinar. Indeed, it's a very interesting cooperation, and we will try to follow all the webinars that will be in the future also, not only today. I will give you some statistical data from our data from the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy, and then we'll be able to have some maybe talks about this data that I will give you today. The Bulgarian Ministry of Labor and Social Policy is responsible for maintaining and updating the national classification of occupations. And we monitor the dynamics of the labor market and identify emerging new occupations. In this process, the ministry is supported by the business, by the scientific organizations, by statistical data and research, and maybe last but not least, by the international cooperation within the framework of transnational initiatives for mutual learning. In Bulgaria, the information about the needs of labor force with certain qualification and skills is obtained from the annual surveys among employers on their needs of labor force carried out by the employment agency. And of course, from the forecasts for the development of labor market elaborated by the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy itself. The last implemented forecasts have a time horizon until the year of 3040, the year of 3040. The information obtained 34. The information obtained is published on a specially created platform for the analysis and forecasts for the development of the labor market in Bulgaria. The Ministry of Labor and Social Policy sends actual forecasts related to information to the stakeholders, including the Ministry of Education and Science, with the aim to be used in the development of the education policy and for preparation of the enrollment plan for training in secondary vocational schools and in higher education. The latest survey of employers' workforce needs conducted in the autumn of last year, 22, by the employment agency, and it shows that 32% of the employers declare intention to hire a specialist with higher education in the next 3-5 years. The total number of graduates that will be needed in the period of 25 and 27 will be more than 120,000 people. The 5 most sought after specialties in the next 3-5 years will be in economics, administration and management, informatics and computer science, electrical engineering, electronics and automation, and mechanical engineering. Out of all regulated specialties, in the most sought after ones will be medicine, nursing, architecture, dental medicine, geodesy, and law. Summarized data on the needs of specialists with higher education show that the areas of higher education that prepare personnel closely related to the use of ICT and Industry 4.0 in the next 3-5 years will be more than 14% of all declared needs needs of specialists with higher education. The sought after specialists from the economics and administration and management fields make up a total of 11% of the needs, and there is a downward tendency in this regard. In the field of medicine needs, we have been identified for 18,000, more than 80,000 specialists for the next 3-5 years. This is around 15% of all stated needs of graduates. The expansion of the demand for highly qualified specialists is also confirmed by the midterm and long-term forecasts for the development of the Bulgarian labor market. According to these forecasts, in the long term, until the year 34, the demand for highly qualified specialists is expected to increase as a result of the higher technological development of the economy. The demand for labor in the fields of education, health, and social care is expected to increase. More specifically, demand for secondary school teachers is expected to increase by 29%, primary school teachers by, again, 29%, nurses and midwives by 18%, and doctors by 17%. Also, human care professionals and social services specialists by more than 15%. Bulgaria continues to face serious challenges in retaining highly qualified personnel in the country. Local employers are trying different tactics to retain skilled workers, including higher wages and bigger bonuses. In the past, the social benefits have been also used to retain skilled employees. But with the shift to remote and hybrid work, financial incentives are gradually taking over all the motivational factors. The Ministry of Labor and Social Policy, together with the Employment Agency, traditionally organize career forums for Bulgarians abroad, through which to encourage to return our compatriots in the country. In this way, employers have the opportunity to present their activities during the forum, to apply for vacancies, to make contact with large number of participants, including graduates abroad, from various educational and qualification areas, and to find a sought after highly qualified and motivated workforce. For the youth, on the one hand, there are opportunities for finding a job within the homeland territory, which is key for the development of economy of our country. An important factor for overcoming negative trends is the increase in the income of the population and overcoming inequalities. As a positive trend, we can know that the significant increase in incomes and the average salary in Bulgaria in recent years, which for the month of September, for instance, last year, is a little bit less than 1,000 euro. It can be noted with regret that since 2016, Bulgaria tops the ranking for the biggest inequalities in the EU. In conclusion, and in order to pass the floor maybe to the colleagues from the Ministry of Education and Science, I would like just to mention that Bulgaria is implementing a strategy for development of the higher education. And one of the priorities of this strategy, which directly corresponds to the current topic, is stated as internationalization of Bulgarian higher education in inclusion and international education and scientific networks. For the implementation of this priority, the creation and support of the functioning of joint educational programs between Bulgaria and foreign higher schools, as well as the new forms of educational exchange, are stimulated. The strategy also focuses public attention on building an effective link between education, science, and business, and increasing the role of higher educational institutions as an active factor in regional development and retention of qualified personnel in the country. Maybe here I will stop, and thank you for your attention. I will not be able to follow the whole webinar today, but I will try to be here as much as I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Efremova. Actually, thank you so much also for pointing out and how to say, really mentioning the specific subject sectors that we'll be exploring during the webinar. It's also important to mention that they are among the foreign students studying in the country, who are approximately 5,000. There are approximately 5,000 foreign students. There is a great number from the UK, also looking for transnational education opportunities. And while exploring the market and what you mentioned, how the employers want to make sustainable the idea that young people and young talent stay in the country and find the job opportunities here. Actually, what we've discovered is if there are more transnational education opportunities and partnerships among universities, that would surely how to say, bring the interest of young people and students from bordering countries as well. We know that Greece is actually the country with most students in Bulgaria since the last, I don't know, a lot of years, probably more than 30 years. The second foreign group, as I mentioned, are students from the UK, minding also the more or less more feasible general conditions, living conditions in the country in comparison to other EU countries. And another group that will be expecting to be very welcoming the idea of joining such kind of programs are students from North Macedonia, Kosovo, Albania, and Serbia. So yeah, looking at the marketplace and exploring these opportunities, including in sectors where we have regulated professions, we could bring up talent, and of course, minding that these are all these young people and students coming here, we know that usually they would be making friendships, having families, and there is a possibility to really support not only the labor market, but the exchange, the cultural exchange, and making it a more interesting destination for sustaining talent. Thank you once again. We know that we will have a colleague from the Agency of Employment joining us as well. I don't know if Ms. Anna Delibasheva has already been able to join the webinar, but she'll be also able to share more about the recent research. You mentioned some of the points, of course, but there was very interesting research prepared by the agency within an EU program, so it will be very relevant to hear from her as well. But if she hasn't been able to join the webinar still, it would be great if the colleagues from the Ministry of Education and Science will be able to join and tell us a little bit more about what is the future of the TNE programs and the different students that join us here in Bulgaria covering such kind of programs. And that would be Ivana from the Higher Education Directorate that would be joining us.
Thank you, Dubriana. I hope that you can hear me well.
Perfect. Perfect.
That's great. I'm using my new headphones, so that's why I wasn't sure they will
Thank
work.
you for your overall support, Ivana, for the whole directorate and being with us and getting many of the universities involved and spreading the word. And yeah, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for being such good partners. It's very easy to communicate and work with you. With Lubov Kostovo, we have established a great partnership, I can say. So I'm very happy that I could see also Ivailo here and you on board. And that's why we are supporting so much, because we can see that there is a reason and that there is sense to do so, to put efforts in. We will be happy to have more and more participants from Bulgarian side, how to say, knowing about these possibilities. And I'm sure that they can make the best of such a partnership. It's not easy to talk after Ms. Efremova, because she is always very concrete, discussing facts and setting a high level discussion after her. So I will try not to repeat what she has already said, but to say what we as a ministry are trying to do in order to support both the partnerships between our universities, British universities, or universities from all over the world, but also how to support the quality of education, which is very important and which is very much linked to the possibility of such partnership. It's about mutual trust, transparency, flexibility, mutual understanding of different cultures, as you, Dubriana, said, which is very, very important. And in our point of view, what we lack the most is not high qualified people in the universities, but lack of understanding of the different cultures. So sometimes very good projects are started and they do not continue after the end, because the differences at cultural levels. So this is something that we can easily overcome, of course. And the other thing is that the quality of education goes to the labor market realization of the students. Whatever we talk about quality of education. And these times we live in, they are both challenging and not easy to be predicted, or to say unpredictable. We don't know what will happen in a year, but we are sure that there will be new professions on the labor market, and we will have to face this technological increase and the demands towards the higher education curricula and the teaching methods, of course. So here were mentioned specialties like computing science, like medical science, so on and so forth. So we can all see how the new technologies enter our lives and enter these specialties. And what we know here in Bulgaria will be very interesting to compare and to distribute to the British University. But we would be also very happy, and it will be very beneficial if we can learn from the other universities. And this can easily be done within such transnational education programs. So we can retain our students here, but we can grant them the possibility to acquire knowledge and to raise their social intelligence in terms of cultural understanding. And it is proved that such students are more adaptive to the labor market, more adaptive to new, how to say, new professional requirements towards them. And what we know for the future, that many new things will appear, and our graduates will be will face such new challenges in less than 5 years. So they must be not just very well qualified, but also excuse me, also trained to be creative, to have this creative way of thinking, problem solving oriented, and to be adaptive, to be open for new knowledge. So this is something that I can see as a very big positive of the British education, because there the programs are more practically oriented, and this will be very good if we can implement it our university programs. I'm not saying that it's not implemented, but we will be more successful if we have a higher level of implementation. So some key features regarding the educational programs, the curricula. Our students, as I mentioned, must have this high level of social intelligence. They also need to acquire creative competence, social responsibility, as I mentioned, flexibility, by forcing the interdisciplinary knowledge of strategic planning and the communication within the university. We can.
Ivana, sorry, can I just ask you to be closer to the mic? Yeah, thank you.
Oh yes, okay.
Perfect.
Sorry,
now it's
sorry.
much better. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will ensure the employment of our graduates in the labor market, and this will be very much supported by the individual approach in the condition of the digitalization era. So talking about the labor market realization, and having in mind what the agenda mentions today, namely the ranking system. One of the interesting features of our ranking system is the employability of the graduates. We can see that high number of graduates do not have professional realization at job places acquiring higher education, or they have themselves working in different fields different than their diploma. Bulgaria is one of the 17 EU countries that now implement a project about graduate tracking. We will follow the professional realization of our graduates, both those, this is for the first time, this is very important to mention, both at national labor market and outside of the country. All the students will be involved in not will be, but they are already involved in this survey, because it was closed in the end of February, and now we are working on the results. So we will, for the first time, have idea how our higher education graduates realize themselves on the labor market, as I said, both in Bulgaria and abroad. So this new data will show us what the students need, and being part of such international education is very important for our students. And they say that they benefit really very much from such international programs. So this is very briefly to say that the number of initiatives are in place here. Also national initiatives like freeing from taxes students in certain fields, protecting specialties in order to support the academics out there. And as Ms. Efremova mentioned, a higher education strategy, which very much encourages the international cooperation. But we nowadays face serious challenges within the legislation and accreditation. So there is an internal discussion on how to make it easier for the universities to cooperate. We, how to say, we encourage them for such cooperation, and then they come back and say, okay, we want to cooperate, but this article from the Higher Education Act or another act creates barriers. So this is something that we also discuss and are focused on. But what is good here is that there is a will to overcome the challenges. So briefly, thank you very much for this initiative, and we will support as much as we can our universities to participate, to benefit, and to help them show their really very good features, results, and practices.
Thank you so much, Ivana. You mentioned a few very important things, including what you mentioned, exactly tracking of how students would realize, later on develop in terms of professional development and engaging the labor market, this tracker that you mentioned. And thank you also that you'll be available throughout the webinar sessions if participants might have some questions related to accreditation and partnering. And now I'm in a hurry to give the floor to Ms. Desislava Miteva from the British Bulgarian Business Association. Thank you so much, Desi, that you're staying with us, because the association has another event, and they were very kind to join us despite of their really tight schedule today. So thank you once again for joining forces and presenting your efforts and how you stand with us on this program.
Thank you very much, Dobriana. Good morning, everyone. My name is Desislava Miteva. I'm the Executive Director of the British Bulgarian Business Association. And I would also like to congratulate our partners from the British Council, and particularly Dobriana, for putting all the effort to bring together all the important stakeholders. It's really a matter of working together if we want to be successful in the TNE program. And I'm very happy to be supporting the British Council, and in partnership with our colleagues at the British Embassy, to be actually the link between education and business in this important initiative. We are a bilateral chamber of commerce. We have about 240 companies at the British Bulgarian Business Association, and we work very closely together both with the British Embassy in Bulgaria and the Bulgarian Embassy in London. And I can mention that we have run a number of surveys among our members, and it keeps recurring that the biggest challenge that businesses in Bulgaria are facing is shortage of talent. And also we are asking our members what is the corporate social responsibility activity that is on the top of their agenda, and education keeps coming back as the most important for our members. So it's only natural that we are happy to act as the link in this initiative between business, education, and government, both in Bulgaria and UK. What I can say about transnational education, it's important that it's actually taking the best from British education and also aligning it with the needs of the local employers in Bulgaria, and also with the specifics of the local market. Just to repeat one of the important things said both by Mrs. Radonova and Mrs. Efremova, it's important to retain Bulgarians in Bulgaria and to make them part of the employment market here. However, I have to say that British education is very well regarded in Bulgaria. Bulgarian employers are very keen to employ students with British education, and especially when we are talking about transnational education, it's actually increasing the employability of the students even more. So I would like to wish you all the success in this couple of days in your discussions. Actually, a couple of our members are joining with more specific speeches regarding their needs for employing students with transnational education. I would like to welcome Mobile Wave Solutions and Flow Logic and to thank them for accepting our invitation to speak with you today. And to Dubriana and the colleagues from the British Council, keep up the good work, and you can rely on us to be the link with the business. It's important for both sides. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you so much, Daisy, for your kind words. And thank you for the support. And as you mentioned, some of the members of the association will be joining us, and as special guests during some of the presentations, mainly the one related to artificial intelligence and computer science, as well as tomorrow's session on business administration and finance. Thank you so much for this support, minding that actually it's the private sector that is also offering possibilities, not only in terms of internships for students, but also for academia representatives to be part with business representatives in hubs and fostering academic mobility within the two countries, of also like joining different, let's say, formats of private-public type of relationships. And we've seen here in Bulgaria a lot done also within the Sofia Tech Park. And I hope that also this program can further facilitate exactly such kind of partnerships, because also, as Ivana mentioned, and you were mentioning, and before that, Ms. Efremova, the support of young people and talent, but it's also the possibility of academic professionals who could, exchange information and have the possibility to work together on joint programs and projects. So thank you once again. In principle, we have, as part of the gender representatives of the trade section of the British Embassy participating, and Dr. Susanna Tomasi. But as I can see, our colleagues from the embassy are currently having some, unfortunately, some troubles to join us. Hopefully we could welcome them to say a few words on a later stage during the webinar sessions. I'm sure that they will be able to join. I don't know if anyone from the embassy wants to say a few words now as end up and wrap up of the introductory session before I have the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to give the word later on to my colleague Janet, who will be joining us. We have actually a participant, Ms. Anna Delibasheva, okay, who'd like to join. Thank you for joining a bit later, but this is the colleague from the employment agency regarding the specialized assessment the agency was able to do in regards to the specific economic sectors and the gaps within the sectors in terms of wanted human resource. So Ms. Delibasheva, would you like to say a few words now?
Yes, good morning to all participants in this so important meeting for all parties. I heard that Ms. Efremova mentioned the key findings of our last research wave, but I would like to speak about the competencies, because during the life experience and also the university experience, people have to develop their skills. I'd like to say that regarding the last wave of our research, the identification of skills of self-control and discipline by most leaders as leadership skills speaks to the still low employer organizational culture of the workforce. by adding the skills of flexibility, adaptability, and initiative, which nearly 2/3 of employers indicate what requirements they make to the search for personnel, it becomes clear that the uncertain business environment in which they are forced to operate necessitates relying on rapid orientation and readjustment of the entire manufacturing processes. So they have a lack of skilled people, not only professionals, but skilled. And one more interesting point for us, if we summarize the results of the awareness regarding the competencies sought by employers in the next 6 months, the business prefer workers with specialists who, in addition to their professional skills, would also show a tendency to initiative and entrepreneurship, speak and write in correct and understandable Bulgarian, and are good with modern digital devices. And all 2 points I would like to mention. We observed that rapidly minimizing the jobs for people without specialties and without profession. So we observed a very, very huge increase of the jobs requires high education and high professional levels, because the technology develop rapidly, and we have to adapt more fast than we can imagine, as I may say like this. And also we have to bear in mind that the labor force now is for the Generation Z, and there is a huge difference between this generation and previous one, because the members of Generation Z, they are working to live. The previous generation are live to work, and this is a fundamental for so we have to take in mind all these specific circumstances and to support these people to join to the labor market. So the rest Ms. Natalia Efremova mentioned, and of course machine operators and people who can be a program, be creative and capable to design the IT programs for robots is very, very new profession. And maintaining the robots also is a new profession. So the education system must be more adaptive. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And can you tell us a bit more about the specific fields that were assessed during the research prepared by the agency, and what are the different gaps that were noticed? I remember that we had a very interesting discussion during the first webinar. At that point, it was, how to say, the assessment was just being finalized, and we discussed that unfortunately some of the young people have a little bit of different ideas and expectations in relation to the higher education that they would apply for, as well as from the side of the employer.
For example, machine operator. But this is not so simple as we can imagine. This is a very, very interesting profession, and all these elements of machine operators includes all these well-skilled people who can manage easily artificial intelligence and data lakes and the quality of data and how to manage the data. There are a big variety of how to say occupations. Data analysis is not to recognize what the data says as trends, but what the data are itself. Consistency of data, how to collect the data, how to maintain the data. What else? Builders as well. All these technologies very rapidly appear in different sectors of economics. We can't imagine how fast it happens. So the business will require very, very high level educated specialists just to take so simple named occupations like machine operators, builders, cooks, and so what we also find, the engineering, the field of engineering creates a lot of new professions and new occupations. With the colleague of the ministry and the European Commission, we have to work a lot to develop and to elaborate the classification of the occupations. Also, what we notice is that the state administration, the public administration needs twice as many university graduates as professionals with secondary education, while in the service sector, it is the other way around. Professionals with secondary education are in demand twice as much as those with a higher education. So the administrative occupations also develop very rapidly. So we have to compensate this lag, because we need to create ecosystem of the employment services just to reply to the employer needs on time. We don't have time to wait somebody to be ready to take some occupation and to start to obtain the skills and to be ready for work, let's say a years. So people are very, very keen. And Generation Z, as I mentioned, they would like to work for causes and to see the results of their work and to have a very rapid professional development. So when they start their working, they expected someone to tell them what should be their professional development in a very, very short term. They expect to grow up from level to level in a very, very short period of time. Let's say each second year, they expect to be promoted and to take higher position within the profession they have. As Ms. Efremova says, the sector of medicine and the so-called white jobs is very trendy, and also the field of green jobs. Green jobs creates huge opportunities for the business and for the people to develop their ideas and to implement the ideas and to see the results.
It's not only trendy, it's also a matter of need. We see that there is really a high need, especially in relation to medicine, to dentistry. So yeah, it's also the needs of the labor market and the needs of real life in a way.
Yes, and the people need somebody to care for them, not because the aging of the society, but everyone, the new generation, so to say, expected to pay more attention to their regular life and to better combine the professional work and their private life. Professional life and private life they need, and also each person is creative, and we need to find the talents and to fight for the talents, because across the world everywhere is the lack of medical workers.
Yes, absolutely.
So we are in a great battle with other countries, not only across Europe, but across the world. Because what I noticed, my colleague from other PES, public employment services across Europe, says that the German nurses and doctors are going to US and Australia. So the people from Eastern countries goes to the Western countries. So there is a professional migration because the salaries are better and the conditions of labor are better in Australia, New Zealand, and US. So all we have to care and to bear in mind in our development, all these specific elements. If you want to keep the workers, we have to be creative to maintain the right labor environment. and working hours to maintain the combination between private and professional life, and this is appeal to employers to create the social packages for the workers if they want to keep them. Because the salary is not the leading point. This is the another difference between previous generation and Z generation. So if the employers like to keep the talents, they have to be creative, inventive, and to think more for the people as people, not only for the workers.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much. And it's also about setting up the right educational, higher educational programs in order to keep on track with what is the tendencies on the labor market. Thank you very much, Ms. Delibasheva. And I'm very glad that our colleague, Dr. Susanna Tomasi from the Department of Business and Trade is able to join us as well, because she would be also mentioning as a higher education specialist what are the tendencies in the UK, and what is the UK government's strategic viewpoint in terms of T&E possibilities.
Right, thank you, and good morning.
Good morning.
Right, so the big question of my slides, I think the magic is happening in the background. As we speak, here we go. So let's get the slides fully on the screen. So I hope everybody can see the slides.
It's perfectly visible.
Brilliant.
Yes.
So what I will do, I'll stop my video, so you will no longer see me because I've got a bit of a weak internet signal where I am this morning. And I'll put my camera back on when we finish in case colleagues have questions. Right, okay, so hello and good morning, at least good morning where I am, and good afternoon soon on your side. So my name is Nat Massey, and I'm the higher education specialist in the UK Department for Business and Trade. Hopefully I sound really excited to be here with you today and to contribute to this event. So I only have about 10 minutes, so I will focus on transnational education and how this can generate future workforce. If we can move on, please, next slide. Right, so let's start with a quick overview of what transnational education is all about. So transnational education is also known as T&E. We like abbreviations, and this can be defined as education delivered in a country other than the country in which the awarding institution is based. So a bit complex, but essentially in our UK case, UK T&E refers to UK degree programs delivered in countries outside of the UK. I like to think that UK T&E is well embedded within the UK international education strategy, which supports the growth and expansion of UK transnational education endeavours. And I will talk a bit more about that in a few minutes. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So before we look at different aspects of T&E and obviously its impact at workforce, I would like to very briefly showcase the size of UK T&E. So T&E has been embraced by our UK universities for a very long time. And in our department, we work very closely to support and promote diversification and sustainable sector growth. And that includes T&E as well as capacity building, obviously with partners overseas. So while the UK has, I think, an ambitious international strategy, and the UK is seen as a global leader in that area, I think other countries around the world developed their HE strategies for growth, especially in the post-COVID era. So Broadly speaking, UK TNE is very varied, and while business is the most popular TNE subject area, there are opportunities elsewhere across all subjects and levels of study, and I think that's really, really important to highlight. Now, as you can see on the slide, the TNE stats are indeed very impressive for the UK higher education sector. So 162 HE providers reported students studying through TNE, and that's more than ever before. We've never had such a high number. So they account for approximately 80% of all UK HE providers, and overall just over 500,000 of students were studying on UK TNE programs in the academic year 2020-2021. So our UK TNE engagements in Bulgaria are, I think, quite modest. And so hopefully after this event, we'll have plenty of new projects to consider. So in the academic year 2020-2021, we only reported 580 TNE students. So, for example, in comparison, the biggest UK TNE market in Europe for UK provision is Greece, and Greece attracted 21,500 TNE students in the same period. So you can see the difference in scale. So given those numbers, I think it's fair to say that we want to proactively encourage the sector to grow TNE in Bulgaria, and that's why we engage in dialogues with different organizations and share global opportunities for TNE through exhibitions, webinars, and engagement sessions such as this one. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. I would like to spend some time focusing on the benefits of TNE partnerships and linking with UK universities with a specific focus on creation of future workforce. So TNE partnerships are the economic and reputational value for both partners. And in our experience, they also make a significant contribution to the education, research, and culture environment of their host countries. So TNE partnerships enrich teaching and offer access to English curriculum. And given that most TNE programs are offered in English, this means that upon successful completion, students are very proficient, if not fluent, in that language. So you can see now slowly emerging benefits of transnational education in relation to employability and future workforce. So TNE programs attract students who are keen on foreign degrees, yet are unable to go abroad. And this can be for cultural or possibly personal or even financial reasons. So essentially on the practical level, studying in their home country tends to be more affordable. And so many students are able to combine studies with part-time work or possibly other personal or family responsibilities, depending on their circumstances. And that allows local universities to keep their talented youth at home. And if brain drain is a problem, then obviously TNE can be a response to that. So upon successful completion of their studies, students receive UK qualifications, which are recognized worldwide. And as part of their studies, they also develop global mindsets. Obviously, in cases of dual degrees or double awards, students would get 2 sets of qualifications, a UK degree as well as a degree from the local partner. And again, we start seeing here additional impact on future workforce. So for example, there is evidence that suggests that students with foreign qualifications are more attractive to local employers and are also seen as more employable. So from the institutional perspective, there are opportunities for multi-level engagement and introduction of various fringe activities such as staff and student exchanges, summer schools, joint projects, perhaps online international learning, and so on. You know, each partnership is different. And it's also worth highlighting that TNE partnerships tend to lead to brand enrichment, which is quite important to a lot of institutions. So when we talk about future workforce, I think we tend to think about students, and I personally would drop the word future, because many students are already engaged in some form of employment, either before they enroll or during their studies. So in my opinion, it's also important to remember about staff involved in TNE provision. So TNE partnerships offer an opportunity to build staff capacity and expand their skill sets, set up and expand research and development, foster knowledge exchange, enhance academic quality, and so on and so on. So in other words, institutions that work in partnership with UK providers, they're very often multicultural. And I've been working in TNE and across different markets and different regions for about 17 years. And I like to say that a lot of TNE partnerships are like a melting pot, you know, full of different cultures, very diverse, and quite actually, you know, sensitive to differences. And I think that really allows staff and students to grow their mindsets and expand their horizons. And in terms of hard returns, you know, it often attracts new academic and commercial deals. Now, in terms of the national perspective, from the national level, TNE partnerships fit into regional economic and education development plans. And that's because they tend to attract international students who are happy to travel within the region, but perhaps do not wish or are unable to go further afield. And they also tend to attract foreign staff keen to be part of a TNE venture. So in that sense, we could say that TNE partnerships can be seen as a way to internationalize national HE sectors, individual institutions, and obviously their curriculum or curricula. So those institutions benefit obviously financially, culturally, and academically from the international environment that they are able to create through TNE efforts. And some of the staff and students may choose to stay in the region for longer, and that in return strengthens the local workforce and contributes to the local economy. Right, so if we move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I had very short period of time to talk about it, and hopefully despite my short presentation, you will agree with me that there is a multitude of benefits of TNE to host nations and local partners. And I like to think that our UK universities are experts in this field. That is my background, so I do talk from experience. Our HE sector, our higher education sector, is leading on TNE worldwide, and our universities have years of experience that I'm sure they would be very happy to share, either through this event or other events. So as a practitioner and somebody who has been involved in TNE for 17 years, as I mentioned earlier, I think I could probably talk for much longer about the benefits of TNE, and I guess that would really upset the organizers of this event. So I better stop now, and I'll be very happy to take some questions if there are any questions. And on a personal level, I really hope that this event will strengthen the education links between our countries and will result in exciting new opportunities, because we would love to have more partnerships between UK universities and Bulgarian universities and higher education institutions. So over to you, and I shall put my camera on now.
Thank you. It was very inspiring, actually. And I would be happy to say that we had the opportunity to listen about the different possibilities that TNE provides during our first event, which happened like a hybrid event last year at the end of November, from our colleague Janet Ilieva, who would be joining us from Education Insight and who would be supporting us with the moderation today and tomorrow, together with my colleagues from the Beautiful Science Foundation and the Sofia Science Festival. But I believe what you said is absolutely fantastic minding, especially as you mentioned, the really great experience of UK higher education institutions in transnational education, of course, with the support of you and the government, the Department for Business and Trade, who are also very much involved working on the issue in Bulgaria within the British Embassy. And it's really years of experience. It's great to say that again, during our last event, we had two very good practices presented in terms of TNE partnerships together with Cardiff Metropolitan University and the University of York, as well as University of Sheffield previously, working together with Bulgarian universities. So another thing is that Bulgarian universities have also quite a lot of experience with TNE partnerships with EU universities. And I know it's becoming a very competitive field, working with EU universities, and of course, the UK being unfortunately not that much involved in terms of the EU opportunities provided. So it's also very important to discuss the different benefits of transnational education opportunities which could be provided from the side of the UK. And one of them, I believe, and what we've been discussing so far, as well as from the side from the British Council, is the really qualitative education that is being provided by the UK. And yeah, I think you mentioned most of the really important aspects, also covered by Janet. And I don't know if I don't see any hands up from the side of participants currently, but actually we are entering now the session for questions and answers. Many of them, I hope, would be related to transnational education opportunities provided from the side of the UK, especially for Bulgarian institutions and organizations, minding that in many cases, TNE is initially perceived mainly as double degree programs and joint programs. But as you mentioned, there are so many different kinds of very flexible programs that could be offered and that could fall within the umbrella of transnational education. So I hope that we could discuss some of that right now as well. And would like to invite the participants, yes, to ask some questions to you regarding your presentation, but also would like to invite Janet from Education Insight to join us and be able to share some of her insights, minding that she's also developing a lot of the research papers that we commission as British Council regarding opportunities for TNE, especially in this part of the EU. You mentioned that Greece is a leader in the market. At the same time, I should say that there are so many Greek students in Bulgaria. The biggest number of foreign students are actually from Greece, and it does relate definitely to the economic opportunities and to the fees that are related to TNE programs, and of course, overall living standards that students would be able to cover in a way. It's either students or their families, because we know that in many cases, it's the whole family supporting the young person to study either within a TNE program or abroad. So, any more questions? Do we have questions? All right. So thank you, Dr. Tomasi, and I hope that you will be able to stay for a little bit longer with us, at least until also Janet is being able to elaborate some more on the TNE possibilities that could, we hope, would be established after we encourage and facilitate this program together with you and the colleagues from the British Embassy.
Brilliant. Yes, I will. And obviously, Janet, brilliant to see you again virtually, hopefully in person, not too distant future. So yes, I will mute myself and turn the camera off, and I'll wait. I'll try to stay until questions and answers.
Thank you.
Thank you.